We now go to the commencement speaker, and it's really an honor today to have one of our alumni speak who has accomplished so much. Kinari Webb came to Yale School of Medicine as a student in 1998 with a vision and a dream. The current educational mission statement of the medical school had not been written yet, but could have been written with graduates like her in mind, to educate and inspire scholars and future leaders who will advance the practice of medicine and the biomedical sciences. Kinari's dream was to build a hospital in Borneo and affect healthcare by tying it to the care of the environment. Before medical school, Kinari spent a year studying orangutans for Harvard University in Borneo. Struck by the health needs of the people who relied on illegal logging for their livelihood and thus destruction of the rainforest, she envisioned a way to the protection of the environment and to the provision of health care. What ensued was the founding of Health in Harmony in 2005 to support human and environmental health around threatened ecosystems all around the world. In 2007, Kinari founded Alam Sahat Lastari, which means Healthy Nature Everlasting, or ASRI, meaning harmoniously balanced. A nonprofit organization in West Borneo, Indonesia, supported by Health in Harmony, working to protect Gunung Pelung National Park and improve the lives of the 60,000 people around the park. Since its beginning, ASRI has treated 70,000 patients. Illegal logging declined from 1,350 households to 180 individuals, and infant deaths per 100 households dropped from 3.4 to 1.1. A 20-bed hospital, ASRI's Community Hospital and Training Center, has been built with a staff of 106, only one of which is non-Indonesian. ASRI has helped train Indonesian physicians as well as 20 Yale residents and 18 Yale medical students. Villages around the rainforest have been introduced to new models for earning a living, and ASRI has earned a reputation as providing exceptional medical care. As a medical student, Kinari is remembered by her classmates for a tiny apartment filled with plants that she saved from certain death. A harbinger of things to come. She rode her bicycle everywhere, healthy for the environment. She ate cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, not so healthy for her. Obviously, she has made us very proud with the way she has chosen to use all that she learned at Yale to influence health in the broadest ways. She is indeed a leader. Welcome back to Yale Medical School.
So much, and thank you, everyone. It is such an honor to be here. I remember very well when I was sitting in your seat and feeling very nervous, actually. I had decided to go back to work in Indonesia, where I had studied orangutans as an undergraduate, as you just heard. And in order to do that, I chose the lowly specialty of family medicine. Some of my professors were not too happy with me. A few days after match day, I was walking towards the hospital when one of my teachers, who's going to remain unnamed, saw me on the other side of Cedar Street, and he actually crossed over to challenge me about my residency choice. "Where are you going again?" he said. "North Dakota?" I said, "No, California." "Same thing," he said. Then he followed it up with, "If you come to your senses, we would still like to have you stay here in internal medicine." Well, I never did come to my senses. And in retrospect, I think I made the right choice. But it was hard to go against the grain. At one point, I asked Nancy Eingoff for advice, and she told me, "Of course you're making the right decision. What are you going to do if you're out in the middle of nowhere in Borneo and you can't deliver a baby?" And it turned out she was right. I have delivered quite a few babies in remote villages, and one of those little ones is even named after me. But when I sat in your seat, I remember my fear basically boiled down to a concern about leaving the center of everything. My professor's comment came from a belief that if you aren't doing a prestigious specialty at one of the top Ivy League schools, you might as well be in North Dakota, which, of course, is a beautiful and wonderful place, and I'm not adding disparagement. On the one hand, this is just obnoxious nonsense. But on the other hand, there's actually truth to it. The reality is, it does matter where you went to school. People at places like Yale have an outsized impact on this country and on the world. But to those of you like me who will be headed out of here, I want to assure you not to worry. It turns out you take Yale with you. First, all the amazing education you have been given can never be taken away. What you have learned will be a blessing to every patient you will care for your whole life, no matter where they are in the world. And you also carry the reputation, which is surprising how many doors it will open for you. Of course, you worked very hard to get here, and so did your whole family. And I hope you are giving them all lots of kisses, big kisses of gratitude today, because they helped you get here. But remember that most blessings also come from sheer luck. Did you do anything special to get such a wonderful brain? Did you consciously select your family and ancestry to support you in life? Of course not. So you must not forget that with great privilege comes great responsibility. I first came to know just how profoundly lucky I was during the year that I spent deep in the rainforest of Borneo when I was 21. I discovered there that people were often forced to cut down rainforest trees in order to pay for health care. I found myself feeling angry and deeply sad that such an injustice was occurring in the world. After residency, I founded a nonprofit called Health in Harmony, and I have spent the last 12 years working on this issue. You may not have thought of your stethoscope as a tool to help heal the earth, the lungs of the earth, otherwise known as rainforest, but it turns out that it can be. Your medical skills have all kinds of unexpected powers. And I want to argue that we actually all need to become planet doctors. The reason for this is that we are at an unprecedented time in the entire 4.6 billion year history of this planet. This is the time when a species that actually has the capacity to understand what it is doing is dramatically altering life on Earth. And the health of our planet is the greatest threat to your patients' health that they are likely to face over your career. Because without a stable climate, enough clean water to drink, food to eat, and healthy air, you will have a very hard time keeping your patients well. Planetologist David Greenspoon puts it perfectly when he says, "The jury's still out whether or not the Earth is going to develop intelligent life." I know that's hard to believe looking around at your classmates, but I'm talking about the intelligence to collectively work together to change our behavior. It isn't at all clear yet if the human species can do that. There is no question that we are looking at potential disaster on a massive scale, where we could all be refugees with nowhere to go. But it does not have to go that way. Oddly, this crisis is also an amazing opportunity, a chance for humans to find creative solutions, learn to work together, achieve social justice, and live in balance with the precious biodiversity of this planet. To head in that direction requires further expanding our circles of compassion and realizing that every last one of us has something to offer. The first circle is actually caring for yourself. Most of you are about to go into indentured servitude. So this isn't going to be easy. I remember massive sleep deprivation, feeling pushed beyond the limits of my skill, terrified I'd make a mistake, and being right in the middle of profoundly traumatic experiences. But I encourage you to prioritize taking time to soothe and care for your body and soul, even in the midst of all that. In my own journey of personal and spiritual growth, I have found help in faith communities, meditation, time with loved ones, therapy, and maybe most especially being in nature. There might be nothing better for healing the soul. As a doctor, the second circle of compassion beyond you and your family is caring for your patients, both their physical well-being and their capacity to be their fullest selves. In Borneo, when we hire medical staff, we're looking for people who know they don't know everything. That's you. Who will be lifelong learners. And most especially, we want providers who will care for their patients as though they were their own family. We ask our applicants a kind of odd question, but I think it's been one of the key of our successes. The question is, what makes poor people poor? We aren't looking for a right answer. We are looking for critical thinking about how issues like racism, sexism, wealth inequalities, a history of colonization, chronic illnesses, and generational trauma play into the experiences of any given person. This broader perspective not only tends to lead to more compassion, but it also helps our medical providers see their patients within a holistic ecosystem level. I encourage you to not only treat asthma, but also to think about the root causes of illness. It was a physician in Flint, Michigan, who exposed the lead water crisis. Doctors in the UK are promoting regulations to ban diesel cars in cities, and medical researchers have shown that people living in neighborhoods with more trees are healthier. These factors can be much more important than pharmaceuticals. As a physician, your voice has great power, and you can influence the health of an entire community, and I hope you will use it. In the next greater circle of compassion beyond your community, I encourage you to also love this beautiful planet. We have now moved into an era where we are just beginning to understand how interrelated everything is. Global weather patterns affect crops. Fish from the ocean, often sadly with mercury in them, are still the greatest source of protein. And forests on the other side of the world stabilize climate and absorb carbon. Of course, no one knows exactly. But many scientists are saying that we have only 10 years to figure out how to start decreasing carbon emissions, or the Earth will rapidly become unlivable for human life. I know I'm telling you something that can feel utterly overwhelming and really bad news on commencement day, and I'm sorry about that. When I started my work in Borneo, I basically figured it was hopeless. I saw myself as a tiny fish swimming against a tsunami, but I figured if you're gonna swim, you might as well swim against extinction. My perspective has changed now, though. I believe, as the writer Joanne Macy puts it, that our time will not be the great ending, but the great turning. My attitude has changed partly because I have had the incredible privilege of witnessing on a small scale how quickly transformation towards a life-sustaining society can occur when people start working together. After residency and starting Health in Harmony, I moved to a very poor part of Indonesia. The average income was less than 50 cents a day. Most of the people were growing enough food to eat, but had very little extra cash. And sadly, for the 60,000 people living directly around Gunung Palung National Park, illegal logging was one of the only ways to get fast cash. One man I know, Pak Sofyan, cut down 60 trees to pay for one C-section. 60 giant rainforest trees. And the thing is that even though the logging was rampant, our baseline survey showed that 99% of the people around the park wanted to protect it. They just couldn't. And who of us wouldn't also do whatever it took to take care of our family members, even if that meant destroying our future? My Indonesian colleagues and I began by doing what I call radical listening. We asked many hundreds of people, like Pak Sofyan and his wife, what they would need as a thank you from the world community in order to stop the logging. Their answers were completely consistent in every village. They told us, we would need access to high-quality, affordable health care and training in organic farming. And this is where the radical part comes in. We actually trusted them and did what they said. How did we do it? My experience is that what is badly needed in one place in the world just happens to be excess in another. For example, we could bring in teaching farmers from Java who have a many thousand-year tradition of sustainable agriculture. To achieve a very high standard of medical care, we hired wonderful Indonesian doctors who learned from and taught visiting physicians from top institutions like Yale. 4 of these young Indonesian doctors have even received further training here. To make the care affordable, patients can pay with bartered items, like seedlings, and even manure. And they can get variable discounts depending on the amount of logging in their villages. And did it work? In just the first 5 years of the program, the number of logging households went from an estimated 1,350 down to just 450, thanks to Thomas who did that study. And now there are only 180 individuals logging remaining. At the same time, health dramatically improved, and as you heard, infant deaths per 100 households went from 3.4 to just 1.1. And at the same time, wealth greatly improved. And what are those previous loggers doing? Well, 52% are now farmers. And the remaining occupations were spread evenly over about 5 other options, including fishing and small businesses. In other words, the communities were totally right. Nor did this work just help the people living directly around Gunung Palung National Park. It was a fair trade. In return for helping these communities with training and resources, the world got key help in regulating our climate. If the 250,000 acres of the national park were to be completely logged and burned, as much carbon would be released as 14 years of pollution from San Francisco. And it isn't just the carbon. Rainforests also produce rain, cooling clouds, and oxygen. They really are the lungs of the earth. Gunung Palung is also one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. There are clouded leopards, Argus pheasants, sun bears, and a critical population of about 2,000 orangutans. The truth is, the health of people living around a rainforest in Borneo matters to all of us. They are protecting our health as well. This is win-win. And maybe for me, what feels like the greatest achievement is that the program in Borneo not only survived, it thrived when I was stung by one of the deadliest jellyfish on the planet and spent 4 years too sick to manage much beyond my own body. Incredible Indonesian staff members, most of them women, and people from all over the world, including from Yale, stepped up and took the program to an even higher level. There are now 105 Indonesian staff in Borneo, led by Dr. Monica Nirmala, and as you heard, there's 1 American middle manager. We are now ready to take this model to a global scale. We believe we can change the game by explicitly linking human health to the health of the natural systems, trusting the best solutions come from local communities, and actually implementing those solutions by bringing in global resources. But to get there, we will need even more partners who care about a healthy planet for us all. So keep us in mind. If you want to come work with Health and Harmony after you finish your residency, we'll be recruiting. But if working in a remote corner of the earth and swimming in jellyfish-infested waters is not really your thing, that's okay, don't worry. Each of us can make a significant contribution to the health of the planet. And what you do anywhere impacts everywhere. It is also increasingly clear that our governments will not solve these problems for us. We have to step up. As a physician, you have a unique role to play. Dr. Kerry Cohen, the founder of Healthcare Without Harm, put it beautifully when he said, "As healthcare professionals, we need to defend the right of people, not only to have access to healthcare, which everybody on the planet should have, but the right to a healthy planet, the right to be born toxic-free. We need to become planetary healers. That is our sacred mission." I believe through radically listening to each other, recognizing that all our well-beings are intertwined, and sharing the blessings we have been given, we can create healthier and better lives for ourselves, for our patients, for our communities, and for the entire Earth. I want to leave you with 3 key points. First, don't be afraid to take the road less traveled, or as my classmate Margaret Bordeaux, who happens to be here, used to say, the deer path less traveled. The expectation superhighway is hard to resist. But if you can see it all laid out in front of you, it likely isn't your path. And this earth needs all of us to do whatever we are most passionate about, even if your deer path leads you to beautiful North Dakota. Second, compassion matters. It starts with you. It spreads to those around you, and then to the whole planet. Third, I encourage you to ask yourself, am I willing to be one of the sacred planetary healers that the Earth so greatly needs? Congratulations again on this amazing achievement. May you go forth and heal.